What are your overall thoughts about the Colts losing in the manner that they did to the Minnesota Vikings this past weekend?
I mean, before we, do any kind of panel over to just me, I'm just going to preview this with the utmost transparency. I tweeted it out loud. I've given a warning on this podcast. I've told Kyle, I've told my immediate friends, I've told my family. As negative as every single person aside from Kyle has taken it, I'm no longer an Indianapolis Colts fan. I can no longer support this team. I've never been a person. Kyle can vouch for it. My family can vouch for it. I don't quit on teams. I don't just go team to team to team. I've never been a bandwagon. I just refuse to continue to put up with mediocrity. And to clarify, the Yankees have been bad. The Colts have been bad. I sat through the in between year before Andrew Luck. I've sat through the injury prone Andrew Luck seasons. I've gone through the Jacoby Brissett years. I've gone through the, losing to the Patriots over and over in the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've been a part of terrible fan based teams. Terrible teams, but been loyal. To me, this is just an ongoing reoccurrence with Jim Irsay as the owner. And Kyle, the reason I'm keeping this pan out is because I have a couple questions.
Hmm.
We've been friends for how many years now? About 8, 9 years?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost getting close to 10 at this point.
So since we've been friends and you know my passion for Indianapolis and how much I've been a Colts fan, what were some things in that time frame that I was saying were big issues?
Well, a couple years ago, obviously the offensive line was a major issue when Andrew Luck was the quarterback. You've had major issues with the general manager spot with the Colts for the last couple years. I won't say that with Chris Ballard. I think that you've actually enjoyed his general managership for the last couple years compared to what Ryan Grigson brought to the table. I know you have absolute and utter disdain for Ryan Grigson as the general manager or the former general manager for the Colts. That was kind of during the Andrew Luck era. And with him not being able to bring in pieces to protect Andrew Luck with just proper offensive linemen. I know you've had major issues with the coaching staff, especially the head coaching staff with Frank Reich. And this was not just an issue this year; it has been an ongoing issue for the last couple of years. And it finally ended with, I think the Patriots destroyed the Colts. I'd say probably about a month and a half ago, and that was finally the final straw with Frank Reich being the head coach for the Indianapolis Colts. And then if I had to kind of round out one more point, I just don't believe that you think that Jim Irsay is the right owner to lead this team towards any sort of success in any way, shape, or form. I mean, I could kind of go a little bit more into detail if you want me to, but I think those are kind of like the main takeaways based on how I've seen the Colts play the last couple of years. But you could take it from here.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's the perfect outline because the consistency here is the ownership, right? And he has accepted mediocrity. He has accepted less than success. He has accepted um I'm trying to think of another adjective, but just basically he's accepted nothing, or should I say everything that isn't perfection, right? You watched Ryan Grigson single-handedly ruin a man's career. The reason why Andrew Luck retired is because he could not stay healthy. The reason why Andrew Luck could not stay healthy was because we had no offensive line. The reason we had no offensive line was because Ryan Grigson did not know how to draft. He did not know how to bring in free agent talent, and he continued to say that we are building around Andrew Luck when in reality that was not the case. So you combine the tenure of Ryan Grigson, right? You combine the fact that that lasted 4, 5, 6 years, however long that tenure was, because I kind of those are like blackout years for me because I just don't want to remember them. Then you go and you bring Chris Ballard. While you bring in Chris Ballard, you bring in Frank Reich. Just won a Super Bowl with the Eagles a year or two prior. You want to bring him in after the Josh McDaniels thing fades away. Offensive mind, quarterback guy. Um, Andrew Luck, all these different things. He has a great season. Andrew retires. Nobody's fault, but again, Ryan Grigson's. I would blame Jim Irsay, but again, that Ryan didn't. He failed to execute, so that is 100% Ryan Grigson. So we have to deal with Jacoby Brissett. That year is up and down the entire way. There's nothing we can do. The offense was completely built around Andrew, and that just was not the case. He retired legitimately a week before the regular season began. How he went about it, I do not agree, but once again, it's neither here nor there. The point of what I'm trying to get at is since he retired, Philip Rivers, 40 years old, make the playoffs, fail to execute due to play calling, execution, however you want to go about it. Again, we just don't make it. The following year, trade for Carson Wentz. Doesn't pan out, is what it is. We don't make the playoffs. This year, go and we trade for Matt Ryan, 37 years old, 36, whatever he was at the time. Pay him 25 a year, whatever the case may be with the contract. He can't do anything. People can't stay healthy. Play calling is atrocious. Personnel's absolutely ass. The offensive line falls apart. So you see where I'm getting, right? It's just a reoccurring trend with either multiple pieces or one focal piece that's just not performing up to expectation. This year, you can really chalk up to a bunch of different things. But again, what I'm trying to get at here is it's not because we're losing. It's not because I feel that we're never going to be able to turn it around. It is because Jim Irsay sits there and he looks at this team and he says, "We're just a few pieces away." Like, what? No, we're not. We're beyond that. The Colts are so far away from being Super Bowl contenders because of the lack of urgency that we have to actually build a constructive and actual supporting team to what we have. The defense is the only consistency that we've had all season. Aside from the Cowboys game, we have been in almost every game over the course of the last couple of weeks, right? So then you go and you hire Jeff Saturday, another prime example of just absolute atrociousness in terms of decision making. Everybody said that I was crazy because after they won the Raiders game, how could you be so negative? He's never even coached before. You just beat the Raiders. Da, 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 da. I said, dude, we beat the Raiders. Okay. What does that mean? What does that do for me? Since then, we lost to the Eagles, the Steelers. We lost to, obviously, the Vikings. And there was another game that I'm missing in between all of those. But the point is, 3 of the 4 games that we've lost, they were fourth quarter blown leads. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, in the Commanders game. So I'm sitting here, right, as a Colts fan, and I'm just looking, and I'm like, between lack of using timeouts, game management, play calling, personnel changes, the defense is keeping us in all of these games. But again, Jeff Saturday, which again is another decision from Jim Irsay, it just looks lost. The problem is we waste the careers of star players. Andrew Luck, one of the best quarterbacks I've ever seen in my life, career wasted for nothing. Darius Leonard looking like it's going to be wasted. We have great position players like Jonathan Taylor. We get Stephon Gilmore later in his career. I know it's only been a season, but it's like these are prime years we're wasting. The DeForest Buckner, Grover Stewart. I mean, the list goes on and on of just talented. I mean, Quentin Nelson, Ryan Kelly, Braden Smith. Before all of these injuries, and it's just year after year after year after year after year after year after year of not even being close. It's not because we're losing. If it was because we were losing, I wouldn't be a Colts fan because we never win when it matters the most. What I'm mad at is we have these beautiful pieces, these incredible players, these young, hungry, talented, homegrown kids that we can't find a way to maximize their talent because we build nothing good around them. I will critique Ballard over the last 2 seasons, but he is not to blame for the recency of our struggles. I blame Jim Irsay wholeheartedly because he sat back and he watched these teams waste time, money, personnel, didn't want to make a decision on the head coaching position, didn't want to make a decision when Ryan Grigson was around, didn't want to make a decision with the quarterback decisions of just continuing to go after these older players, right? And everybody's going to tell me, well, Kev, that's a general manager's job. Right. It's also a general manager's job to hire a head coach. It's also a general manager's job to step in and go and acquire pieces in the offseason. But Chris Ballard hasn't been able to do that because Jim Irsay is making all the decisions in the background, saying, hey, Jeff's a friend, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. I can't continue to support a team when an owner doesn't know the difference between up and down, left and right. Honestly, what he has put together over the course of the last 3 to 4 seasons has been abysmal. Aside from the Phillip Rivers year where we made the playoffs with a young team, um, I think that truthfully and honestly, this team has been a laughing stock in my personal opinion. Can never beat the Titans when it mattered the most. Tied against Houston this year. I mean, again, the Titans, excuse me, the Vikings and the Eagles combined this season are what is it, 24 and like 4. The
It's a good
Vikings are
rec
11.
it's a good record nonetheless.
Could have beat them both. How am I supposed to support a team that just can't get their head out of their ass? How am I supposed to support an owner that is the first person to talk when we win, but is nowhere to be found when we lose? How can I look at an owner that hired a homeless man to the equivalent of experience to run a football team? How can I support somebody that watches careers just dwindle and waste time and just wither into dust like Thanos snapped his finger? I can't. So again, The fact that this happened, how it happened, I mean, you can go down the list. Defense kept us in a lot of these games, creating multiple turnovers. I mean, Kirk Cousins had 2 interceptions. He had a strip sack fumble. He was stopped on fourth down multiple times. Uh, the offense wasn't able to execute the play call to go for it on fourth down instead of kicking a field goal to go up. I will never understand time management with the timeouts. I mean, defensive substitutions. I mean, you look at it, we're throwing the ball when we're up for no reason. I can't physically understand what it is that Jeff Saturday was deciding to do this entire game. And yet, once again, I can't be surprised because he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. When Jim Irsay sells this team, which I know will never happen, I will come back and I will proudly support this team with my whole heart because I can't see it in myself to leave a team that I've cheered for since I was a kid. But until then, I can't support them. I'll cheer for them when they win a game. If they were to make it to the playoffs in some near future, I can support them. I'm not going to go out there and say I'm going to be an Eagles fan like my dad swears I am. I'm not going to go out there and pick a team to close the year out. Whoever wins the Super Bowl wins the Super Bowl. I love Joe Burrow. I support the Eagles because of my girl and her family. But in terms of picking a team, I don't have one. Call me a quitter, call me a bitch, call me whatever it is that you want. I have named a multitude of reasons as to why I physically can't put myself through supporting a team as emotional as I get, as invested as I have been to this team through the ups and the downs and the struggles and the injuries and everything that the Colts have gone through since I've been a fan. Yes, we've had multiple Super Bowl appearances since I've been born, and we've won one of them, which I'll never forget and cherish that my entire life. But again, I can't support this team anymore. I've gone through too much as a fan. I've given them everything I can, and at this point, this was a straw that broke the camel's back. 33 to nothing to lose 39 to 36. It's unacceptable for me. It's unforgivable. The only person I have to blame, truthfully, is Jim Irsay. This all comes back to you. I'll never forgive you for this, truthfully and honestly. Wasted too many players' careers. You have put this team through the most embarrassing half of a decade I've ever seen. I know that the Texans are bad. I know that the Panthers and all these other organizations are like not winning games, but with the personnel that we have, we shouldn't be this bad. And in large part, that is because Jim Irsay has accepted mediocrity from this organization, from this front office, and from this personnel. And again, I'll never forgive him. So right now, again, I don't have a team. It's weird. I sent Kyle a video of me pretty much throwing all my Colt stuff, not out. I put it in my closet. Pretty much just threw it in my spare closet, with all my junk. But you know, it's unfortunate. I not teared up, but I got like a little emotional, like just kind of like quitting on them. But I just can't do it anymore.